is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime simply put relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, along with my producer for the night, of course, the most sensational man around, Mr. Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 4th day of March 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, it's Maritime Tick, 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 Tick Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuned in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cousin Shantia. That's Shantia Heel McBride and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 1on1pharmacy.com. That's 101 Pharmacy, all one word, all lowercase, .com. The 3 locations are East Street South, and of course, when you go in there, you got to tell Joy, hello, that's the pharmacist. Prince Charles Sanders Highway is the 2nd location. And of course, that's where my little cousin Ancilla Silla Hepburn hangs out. And of course, she run the money. So when you see her tell you want a little something, something. And in Freeport, downtown Freeport, we got my big sis. She really is my cousin, but we grew up like brother and sister. She got me by one. Steph, what you got me by? Oh, yeah. She only older than me. Steph run things up in there, okay? And, of course, when you see her, when you go in Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport and you see Steph, please give her a big hug for me because she's bubbly and she loves hugs. And just let her know, Maritime Matters. See, you come for your operations and she need to give you a little something of that operations. That's how we roll. So there we go. We also are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. We're located here in Nassau, East Street South, and of course in Freeport, downtown. I forget the name of the building. Lydia, don't take it out on me, child. We used to be in Kipling building, but Lydia said we move. Okay, good night, Auntie May. Our number 1 fan for Maritime Matters. I say good evening to you, Auntie May. That's my Auntie May up there in Freeport. 91 years old and going strong. And guess what? Guess what? I got news for you all tonight. Our good old Auntie May turns 92 next week. So that could be 92 and going strong after next week. And she continues to roll, man. Auntie May be rolling on like nobody's business. Tall and strong. That's what I'm talking about. You're listening to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters as weekly at 17:05. That's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities, and more opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime fields. The phone number to call us, should you wish to get in on discussions during the show, is 326-8255. Again, that's 326-8255. to hear a replay of this show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like how you say, I love you. 3 words. Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to our YouTube page or go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box Maritime Matters Bahamas. And you'll see a litany of our shows just popping up, pop, from day one all the way back to 3 years ago when we did our very first show on February 1st. Eh? So let's talk maritime. Hello. Tonight we wish to take up some of those maritime related issues dominating the headlines of late. Topics shall include the following. The big one, Exuma moorings dilemma. Now you know and I know that over the past couple of weeks we had a big deal happening in the Land and Sea Park where buoys or moorings were popping up all over the place. And sometimes people say, well, what moorings is? What these things you call mooring? Moorings are buoys. Buoys that boats, normally small boats like sailboats and that type of thing, can just, instead of dropping their anchor and connecting to the bottom of the seabed, they just tie their rope up to a buoy that's floating, and below the buoy is a long chain or long rope that is embedded into the seabed. It's already secured to the seabed, whether it be anchors, whether it be the technique where they drill a hole down 30 feet or so and put a heavy lead and then pack it with quick drying cement and make sure it can't come back up. It's a lot of different varieties of methods they use to secure these moorings to the seabed. So the ship or the boat wouldn't have to worry about dragging the anchor or nothing like that. And then the mooring means you coming to that buoy and it have a eye or a hole or slot or something there for you to just slip your boat rope through and come back to your boat. And so you secure. You know that no matter how the wind blow, you ain't going nowhere because that thing is properly anchored in. It's anchored far more solidly than if you drop your anchor and pull it. Your anchor could only go so far into the seabed. But these things, they drive them deep into the seabed. And some of them have tackles where they use 3 and 4 different anchors to make sure that ain't gonna move, no matter what direction the wind blow. So we found recently that there were 49 sites approved with over 250 buoys to be scattered over the Exuma Keys. Now we know that Exuma Keys is a pretty busy place, That's one of the most beautiful sites in the world, right? And most of our islands are just as beautiful, equally as beautiful, but they're not as big, as long. You're talking about, when you talk about the Exuma Land and Sea Park, you've got about 80 miles, is it 80? At least about 80 miles long, or is it 60? Anywhere between 60 and 80 miles long, and wide is about 30 to 40 miles, right? So you're talking about a vast area, a very vast area of protection from anybody really fooling with anything in there as far as, like taking fishery for sale. Now people go to Land and Sea Park, visitors, tourists, and they're allowed to do a little catch to eat. But they're not allowed to catch to take back home and sell. And then of course you got some Bahamians who trifle in that area every now and then, and some of the Bahamians are guides, right? And they got their own boat doing tours. So it's okay for them to catch a little couple, but they're not catching fish to go back home and sell. Because you're not allowed to do any kind of commercial activity in that Land and Sea Park. So what happened was, because so many people come there to spend a week, 2 weeks, 2 days, whatever period in the Land and Sea Park, these buoys are going to be provided for them to utilize. So we could talk a lot about that tonight, because we talked about that last week. But I think we still got some licking to do, because that's a serious thing. It's 49 sites totaling 250 buoys for one entity. And this entity don't even reside in Exumas? And that's why we talk about that some more. Eh? What about the locals? So, what happened once these moorings started to be installed? Is a lot of people scream out, what's going on here? Who's this? What's this? And of course, it had to be investigated. And the investigation revealed that this entity got authorization from the office of the Prime Minister in principle to install some buoys, provided this entity got the relevant approvals that was necessary or required from the various government entities prior to installing. But they went ahead, once they got that nudge from the office of the Prime Minister, they decided, well, let's start putting these things in place. And so what happened after that is there was a cease and desist order issued saying, nobody move, nobody get hurt. Cease in seconds. Don't touch nothing. That's what it was all about, right? And so they left everything as was. And what we would like to know now, or what I would like to know for sure, is have they gone back and remove those moorings or buoys that were installed without authorization? Has the cease and desist order been supplemented with a removal of installation order? Were they ordered to move them? Because if ain't nobody tell them they have to move them, and that's work and that's money they got to spend, they probably ain't gonna move them. So we need to know if they were ordered to move them at their own expense, because the government ain't put them there, the government shouldn't be taking them out, eh? And etc. etc. We also want to know things like, have those moorings been utilized for rent? Or let me put it this way. There are some moorings that were always in the land and sea park for years, for decades. Now who put them there? They were spread out in the land and sea park by the Bahamas National Trust, the BNT. And we know the Bahamas National Trust are the custodians of all land and sea parks all over the Bahamas. Eh? They're the ones who try to make sure these parks remain untouched, pristine, unviolated by outsiders coming in there and violating them and whatnot. So the BNT actually have an office in the land and sea park. I think it's Wadrick Wells Key, and they got something going on Halls Pond Key. Anyway, in the land and sea park, they have a house, a building, a structure, where they see as their office. And a lot of people going into the land and sea park, they happily go and visit those, and they normally call them wardens, the ones who are living in that house, responsible for patrolling the land and sea park, right? Because they got boats, and they on a routine basis go round and round to make sure nobody violating operations in the park. But they have also installed a whole heap of buoys or moorings, and they actually charge for these moorings. And this is going on for decades. They were charging for these moorings. Now, I don't know on what legal provisions these buoys were laid. Now, maybe the Bahamas National Trust get some kind of agreement with the government to say we can put these buoys in place. Or maybe because they're the custodians, they decide we can put these buoys in place, and when people pay, and these people pay per day, they pay good money for these buoys, for using them. And then they got an honor system where once you can use them, we got a little drop box where you can come and put your check, and we'll get it later. Or you can pay us online once you get on. So, you know, these people, these yachties, I can tell you, they reasonably disciplined people. And they believe in, most of them, 99% of them, believe in preserving nice areas like the Land and Sea Park for future reference or for future use. And, you know, they them kind of people who go on the beach and leave the garbage. So when they go on the beach, they make sure carry their garbage bag and they pick up every grain of whatever shouldn't be there. These people are good at that, and that's what I like about them, right? But they were paying to use these moorings, and I assume they're still paying to use these moorings, because if you check the BNT website or the website for the Land and Sea Park, moorings, you'll see where these people are charged based on how long their vessel is, how many feet. You pay according to the length of your vessel. And, well, of course, I would think that BNT is non-profit. So I would assume that that money goes into getting the boats to do the patrols and paying. And Defense Force was assisting them for the past couple of years, as I recall it, right? So they have assistance, not only one warden or two wardens, but now they got a warden and a couple of Defense Force people who primarily do the patrols nowadays, eh? So that those funds, I assume, are being utilized for the management of the enforcement areas. But I am not saying that they shouldn't be there. My only thing is, were they placed there based on the legal provisions? And we want to talk a little bit about what those legal provisions are. Because if it applied to one, it applied to all. Don't tell me because you use BNT, you could break the law and put what you want put in place in the national park. Because I ain't care for that. And I say you did that. But we can talk about that a little more. Because I happen to know a good bit about the procedures. Right? And I can tell you some other things, but I can't talk that now, right? So, what are the existing procedures and policies to install buoys in the Bahamas? In the Bahamas, not only in the land and sea park, anywhere in the Bahamas. See, the Bahamas is supposed to be split into different sectors or different areas, and every area is supposed to have a Port Authority. And this is clearly delineated in the Port Authorities Act. Because you're not only supposed to have a Port Authority for Nassau or New Providence. Every single island in this country, inhabited island in this country, is supposed to have a port authority that regulates where buoys are placed, who is going to be authorized to place these buoys, and all the rest of it. There's a procedure. Who can protest, or you must have a period to protest to say that this person shouldn't be allowed to. But then all these things were supposed to happen with this company, and all these things should have happened even with BNT, putting moorings in place to charge money. Because in my opinion, I don't know if that's just supposed to be automatic, right? But all this coming up now that this thing happened. So you got the Port Authority Act procedures, which we can talk about in a little detail after we take our break. And then you have a docks committee, or what used to be a docks committee. I think that was replaced by the DEPP-led approval process. That's the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection. They have a process where you can go to them now to start up if you want put a buoy in a particular area, because the environment got to be taken into account in a big way. Where you could place that buoy, how many of these buoys you want placed, and all the rest of that. But the Port Authorities Act part comes in where who you are, who are you, who you is, to want to put a buoy in this area. Because now, if the Port Authorities, and the problem we have is over the past, how long we've been independent now, 49, 50 years? Over the past 50 years, no government entity appointed port authorities in those family islands. And there's no reason for that. If you tell me you can find 7 people in family islands to form a port authority board, you have some issues. Because all these family islands have people who could be sitting as a port authority board member to make decisions on where moorings would be moored, make decisions on what boats should get registration to do what you call commercial activity or to apply for hire, where there's non-motorized, motorized, jet skis, mailboat. Well, mailboat goes more than on that island. But you get the picture that these things are supposed to be controlled by a body. And the body is there to ensure that, first of all, it's a Bahamian. Second of all, they have liability coverage if something go wrong. Third of all, we want to know you're a local person here if you're coming in this area to do something, because we got local people who could benefit from these things. We don't want you coming in from outside talking about you want to make money in our turf, and we got people who could make that money. So that's the way I see it now. I say it got to be like that, but I think that's primarily why each area has provisions to have a board. Now, all this is already laid on that, covering which area, all these different port areas in the Bahamas, all these are laid out from 1965, as that when that was written, from way back then. So nobody can come to me and tell me, oh, that ain't the way. Yes, that's the way it is. Now, when it comes to leasing the seabed, Well, of course, that's a different kettle of fish, eh? And based on the information that came out, these entities leased seabed, basically the whole of Land and Sea Park, they lease. Now, see what happens if they lease the seabed. Only them could get authorization to put a buoy or anything on that seabed. Nobody else could use that seabed if it's leased to me or you. But how do you get a seabed lease in an area where people live who want to make a living and cannot if you get the seabed lease? Why wouldn't the seabed lease go to the people in that area? And we can talk some more about that too. So, should the existing procedures or policies for installing buoys be revised? First of all, like I was saying, you got the Port Authority Act with some procedures, and then you got the policies and procedures that DEPP undergirds and ensure that if you want seabed lease, or is it seabed, seabed lease come under Lands and Survey. It come under the Office of the Prime Minister, because he's the Prime Minister is usually the Minister for Land and Survey, right? And you know why, right? Land and Survey, come on, lands. So that lease comes from the Office of the Prime Minister, but that lease alone is not your license. You still need to go to get that lease finalized. You have to go to DEPP, and sometimes they'll tell you to get an EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, or this area we want to preserve because we got a habitat of this going on or that going on. So it is as simple as it sounds, eh? What? 1729 already? Why are you all trying to teach my time? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Maritime Matters, and on this show, we talk maritime. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer for the night is none other than the great Mr. Craig Gibson. The number to reach me on, or to reach us on, if you wish to contact us during the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. We just getting warm now. We just finished talking about the Exuma moorings dilemma. We got a big dilemma going on because, some authorization, not even authorization, some not approval. What word I need? I don't know. Something in principle was given to this entity that basically wants to cover the entire Land and Sea Park with moorings, over 49 sites and over 250 buoys or moorings for rent, so that they could make 50 cents per foot per day for the smaller ones, and in some cases over $1 per foot per day for bigger vessels. And clean house. Because after a couple years, that converts to megabucks. That's what we were talking about, the procedure to do that, where we are with it, should the locals be involved, and all the rest of that. Our next topic here would be the Exuma boating boycott if Anchorage deal proceeded. So over 90% of yachtsmen that were interviewed, now they didn't interview all, but they interviewed a good handful of yachtsmen and asked them what is their position if these moorings are in place and they got to pay for these moorings. And based on reports in the press, it is saying over 90% of them decided, well, I could boycott. If I have to come and pay to use those moorings or pay to anchor in the Land and Sea Park, I don't need to be coming here. I wouldn't be coming back to the Bahamas. I'll go someplace where I ain't got to pay. Why is there such a concern? That's what I would ask. Why? Why would they be so concerned with paying a couple dollars if buoy rental fees are already in place by the Bahamas National Trust? They're paying this money today. So that smell a little fishy to me. Why, if you already paying this money, but a different entity put buoys in place and say you gotta continue paying this money, you gonna have a big problem and they won't come back all of a sudden. It ain't like you was getting it free, Even if you anchor in the Land and Sea Park, you had to pay $50 a day for small boats under 90 feet or something like that. And I think must be about $80 a day for anything over that size. So it's only 2 fees for anchoring. But you can't just go around there and anchor free. You can imagine that. You anchor your own boat in the sand, and you still got to pay. That happens today. So this new entity was only going to basically continue that and clean it up a little bit and make sure that instead of you using moorings that have tackle with anchors and stuff that could root up the seabed, you basically that there's drilling holes and putting the lead and compacting it, and you got a cleaner anchorage strategy system in the land and sea park. A cleaner system that disturbs the environment less, and you pay basically the same thing. So why all of a sudden, based on reports, 90% of the boating community that utilize the land and sea park are saying that they're going to boycott if the anchorage deal proceeded? I don't believe that. I mean, that's my view. I don't believe that. Because, again, you're paying this money now. So you're telling me because the money switched from one pocket to the next, you ain't going to pay no more, you can boycott? That don't... Somebody need to call 326-8255 and explain a little bit to me how that's supposed to be an issue, right? Should they wish to utilize our water resources, they should want to cooperate with our environmental protective measures, such as no anchorage. We shouldn't allow them even to anchor in there, because wherever they can anchor, we can put a buoy. No anchorage. Anchor, but this is a good beach and I can just anchor. We can put a buoy there. We don't want you dropping no hook nowhere in our country where we have buoys provided. And if our country was a first world country, that would have been in place a long time. And y'all would have been abiding by it happily. So don't try come up in here talking, but oh, we can boycott. Man, look here. If you have a problem with that, boycott, because we don't even want you here. We don't want you here. Boycott. So, other topic that we're going to go to, now mind you, we can look them to a little bit. Exuma Moran Dilemma, and 90% of the Exuma boating community, mainly tourists, and 95% tourists, they will boycott if anchorage deal proceeded, right? And we say that's a bunch of nonsense. We don't think that's the case, because they're paying for buoys now. Now the cruise lines, the private islands, our Prime Minister said that they are akin to many mega resorts. And I mean, that's a no-brainer. Everybody know that. Those cruise ships carry more people than the very, very large cruise ships. Have more rooms, right, than our major hotels. So, whenever they go to their private island, those rooms with all those people go on the island, and the island will be like the hotel yard. Because those islands ain't that big. They could walk everywhere. Nobody's going on them islands to catch no tram or catch no ride here. No, you walk everywhere. You may have some golf carts for those who feel like, and I don't even think they're for rental. You just go in the golf cart because you ain't got far to go, right? Excuse me. So our Prime Minister is saying these mega yacht, the private islands are just like one of our big resorts, which is true. But the ships land thousands of personnel, and they are in a captive state with financial benefit exclusively to that shipping line. So when they bring that hotel, per se, a floating hotel, to that quay, the perfect day at Coco Key, Castaway Key, Half Moon Key, they are bringing those people to a place where they are still making the money. I think that our government should ensure that all facilitations that fall under the policy that Bahamians only could provide various services like water sports. We don't want those who say, we got to call on the line. Call on the line. You reach Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Well, thank you very much, Captain Bain. This is Captain Bain. Interesting show you got going on this afternoon. And I'm forced to chime in.
Yes, Captain Bain. How are you, sir?
Unforbidden.
Man, I always ready and willing and able to take your calls all the time.
Well, indeed. Let's start with the moorings in the Exumas, and I just want to give my opinion on that. I personally believe that if you're going to put moorings in my backyard, and when I say my backyard, meaning I come from Sandal Key, I come from Black Point, I come from Farmers Key. I think that I should benefit from that, because the private entity that is collecting the fees associated with the moorings, they are not from Sandal Key, Farmers Key, or Black Point, and they are collecting, and so I feel as though the residents should benefit. And really and truly, when I think about the whole business of sovereign wealth fund, and the kind of position that Lincoln Bain and others would have advanced previously concerned, I think this is a ripe opportunity to say, well, hey, wait a minute. The Exumas, people from Exumas, everybody, if someone want to put moorings in the Exumas, and it's gonna in some instances benefit the environment by offering some protection to the reef systems and whatnot in these local environments. I think that would be the beginning of a sovereign wealth fund for persons from the Exumas in particular, or portions of the Exumas. And I just feel as though that's something we should jump on in terms of how we do it. Of course, no one entity should own it, but definitely, if you're gonna consider it, the local residents of these islands need to benefit. And incidentally, I spoke to a local mailboat captain just today concerning the same, and he would have indicated that the moorings are so numerous in numbers. There's so much moorings out there and none have lighting and the light on them. So really and truly, when you talk about safe navigation, the whole position of the government in halting the continuation of that particular exercise is warranted, in my opinion, because the Exumas is traversed on a daily basis by numerous amount of people, day and night, and if you add some things in the chain, not on the map, not on the charts, that's not known to be there, then you run the risk of causing some problems in terms of safe navigation. And we know that at sea during nighttime, if you're not unaware that something exists in that environment, that could be it can very quickly become a deadly incident. So I just think that the residents of Exumas should benefit, and if they want to install moorings, make it a sovereign wealth fund, where if you're going to put some in my backyard, let everybody for generations to come benefit from it. That's the first point. What do you think about that?
I would like to respond. Let me tell you what I think about that. I think that, but I don't buy into that part with the sovereign wealth fund. I think the sovereign wealth fund should be for any foreign entity coming to extract some of our resources for whatever reason, paying a big royalty, and that should go into sovereign wealth fund. But when it comes to those buoys being laid in the Exumas or in Cat Island or in Crooked Island or Auckland or any one of these islands we got in the Bahamas laying buoys, the law, the Port Authority Act provides that each one of those areas have a Port Authority board. And that board, in conjunction with the MP for that area, see, now you got to remember, when that green light in principle was given to say, well, you could put it there, but now, before you put it there, you got to go ahead and get all these approvals from the relevant government agencies, right? That the entity, the Office of the Prime Minister, OPM, that gave that green light was not the entity that gave the cease and desist order, You know who gave the cease and desist order? The Member of Parliament for Exuma, Honorable I. Chester Cooper, gave that cease and desist order. because that is his, that.
How does an entity who makes representation to the government, who goes as far as making representation to the office of the Prime Minister, how does that entity then move from that to making representation to the office of the Prime Minister to procuring anchors and equipment and engaging entities of the United States to conduct the work if they wasn't sufficiently comfortable that they were doing the right thing?
Well, that's just it. That's just it.
Are we not informing them? Are we not telling them what they need to do? Is it? I just don't understand it. And
no, but they were allowed to do it because there's no Port Authority board for the area.
Investment without having some sort of guarantee that your project is approved. Right?
But part of that.
I don't support that.
No, but see, part of that approval process, they're supposed to go to the local government and get approval before they put the first buoy in place. But they never went to the local government. They never went to the port department. They just decided they can start putting buoys in place. So you can't knock the authorities, right? Now that entity that would have given them the green light from the office of the Prime Minister was totally out of order. But what I want you to understand here is the local member of Parliament stepped in. And in my view, that same local member of Parliament now has the opportunity to get the locals in that area and form a Port Authority board and get the locals in that area to apply for different pieces of lease of the seabed, right? And you could have a standard say, okay, we got 3,000 acres, and each family should be able to get at least 500 acres lease. And you could put your own buoy, manage your own buoy, or you could form a conglomerate to manage the buoys and everybody pay to maintain them. You can put lights on every buoy so when night come and vessels are maneuvering, they wouldn't run into them. What you do, the reason why the Port Authority Act provide that each of those areas have a Port Authority board is for that reason alone. You want to protect the people in that area from being violated, and you want to give the people in that area an opportunity to get approval for these things.
But you're saying that technically you're saying the same thing that I would have alluded to earlier, really and truly, because when I talk about a sovereign wealth fund, how we do it, the technical details associated with that, I did not articulate clearly.
Yeah, because sovereign wealth fund is for the whole country. Sovereign wealth fund is not for.
I'm just saying that we can have a semblance of a sovereign wealth fund for the Exumians. If you're going to utilize my backyard as an Exumian to make money on a commercial basis, then myself and my family should be able to benefit from it as well. Because the natural resources of the Bahamas is not limited to persons who are the persons who are able to exploit them through, say, a license or whatever the case may be.
No, but that license has a process. So yes, the way to do it, first of all, there are laws in place so that each island area could have a Port Authority board appointed. And that Port Authority board approves anything in that island area. So the person in the office of the Prime Minister or whatever the case may be would not even have an opportunity because they have to go to that Port Authority for approval and they can tell them no.
Well, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, Cap, if we have those sort of systems in place.
No, we don't. And we don't have them in place because the central government don't want to release. They don't want to release.
I'm concerned that how land reform, land management happens in this country. Because
I could tell you from a maritime perspective.
When you look, just give me a minute. When you look at how land has been managed over the years, it's always designated. Is always the office of the Prime Minister, and nobody seems to have. There's no real system on how to either acquire crown land, what rules apply to when you acquire it,
But you're talking about crown land. See, we talking maritime. Let's keep it maritime. We talking about seabed lease. Seabed lease is not crown land, right? You ain't buying. You ain't getting granted. You are leasing the seabed.
Right, but
There are provisions in law for leasing the seabed.
No, but it's the exact same sort of thing because
No, because you saying now nobody know how but we have laws for the leasing of seabed. Everybody know how it's supposed to happen.
okay, let me ask you a question. We've had do you think that the laws that are associated with leasing are having seabed leases, do you think the average Bahamian is aware of what is required? Because you did mention the fact that the local Exumians should be able to get XYZ amount of seabed lease and whatnot. Do you think that the local average Exumian know where to even begin with this whole business of acquiring a lease to address what you would have advanced earlier?
No, but the MP for the area should be able to educate them by way of town meetings that look, we could do this. Now we want every family to have a part of this. Yada yada yada, and they should be given that opportunity to invest in their areas, so that the local MP, who is linked with the politicians, and who is supposed to be able to be finding opportunities for their people in their local areas, should be able to set them up with this. This ain't no big deal.
Is that opportunities before or after these? Because you're talking about politicians, and I'm not sure.
I am saying what politicians should do. Now, if they ain't doing it, and most of them are not doing it, that's a different story.
See the music.
I am saying how it should be done, right? Now we know that today.
Clarifying that because that was my concern with your statement, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that we as Bahamians ought to be doing or should be doing or whatever to benefit the masses, but to a very large degree, oftentimes the most of the things that are actually being done benefits the few, and so yes, we have a problem, and that could be remedied if in fact we had a system that was equitable and that one that benefits the masses.
Yeah, but first of all,
don't have that system.
But first of all,
don't have that system.
First of all, we have to have the central government minded to give or empower those in those family islands to have these boards that anybody want to do anything in those areas have to go through. Because here it is.
Have we been, how many years, Cap, have we been attempting to have this very same issue addressed? I know for sure, in my lifetime, I have heard year after year we talk about the whole business of local government and how it ought to work, and decentralizing the whole concept of governance within the Bahamas and throughout the family islands and whatnot. But it has not materialized. Why? I just believe that there's no desire to decentralize the government because of the fact that they want these projects to come through a centralized agency, and they make the decision rather than the local community who knows best.
And that is why we have this dilemma right now with these buoys. Because if the central government would empower by way of the act and allow or cause, because the government only got appoint people to make up a board, and they doing it in every other area, eh? So it ain't like
the boards are not working. In all honesty, you are aware that these boards don't work.
That's not true. That is not so. The board, the New Providence Port Authority board, works.
Who are not duly qualified to be on boards and what that is all about.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
A good stalwart within a particular constituency, you get to serve on a board. You don't need to know. You don't need to know diddly squat about whatever it is that you're supposed to be addressing. And so that's a waste of time.
No, if you're telling me, hold on now, Captain Brain. If you're suggesting to me that 9 or 7 people in the Family Islands cannot read the Port Authority Act to see how their boat is supposed to be governed and make that happen, I could tell you that that's not the case. They could they only need to put the board in place, you know, and as they go on doing approvals, and then they have the port department to call on if they need assistance or if they need guidance.
Oh, Cap, you this is a situation where you're not being practical, because here it is. If somebody does not have a clue or does not care, the only thing they care about collecting their couple dollars at the end of the month, their little stipend. They're not interested in all the technical things. This person came from an area where what you're talking about in terms of Port Authority, that's not even something that they probably never even heard about.
I never heard about it until I got to read the act. Everybody, because they never heard about it means they can never form a board?
Yeah, but the boards are in place and they're formed. They're duly constituted.
The boards are not in place.
Reality,
they don't name anybody to the board, so they don't active. They could very readily become active.
Are the boards functional?
The boards can be functional.
Be effective? Those are the questions.
But they can be if people are appointed. You have to appoint people first. And if you appoint me, if I live on a family island, right? And I know a little more than the average person when it comes to the Port Authority boards, right? So let me use someone else. Your brother. Which one of your brothers? We can pick. Not you. What let's say Tony moved to the family island, right? And he is retired, and they're looking for people to put on to start a Port Authority board and different boards, and they pick Tony to be on a Port Authority board, and he reads and he say, oh, okay, this board, I'm going to be the chairman, these are the things we're going to be considering, and he look at the Port Authority Act. Within 2 months he don't understand what his job is, what his role is, and he got people in there. They know you need a quorum to have a meeting. We're going to deal with all jet skis and in what areas. We're going to deal with all buoys. We're going to deal, and this is what Port Authority boards do. They're there to deal with boat registrations and commercial activities, maritime commercial activities in those areas. And this buoys for rent fall under that purview. So don't tell me Tony and a couple of people can't get together and run a board for that purpose, because that's an easy thing to do.
I'm not saying that they cannot. I'm just saying that there's no. If Tony is only interested in collecting his stipend at the end of the month, which invariably that's what happens with most of the boards. Particularly if you look at if you want to be realistic, you talk to anybody. Say, well, what board are you serving on? Is it a paid board? Everybody want to be on a paid board.
Yeah, but you have people. Everybody, for example, you got unpaid boards, and people happy to be appointed to those boards, and they don't need to understand everything in that area. You know, you only need one person as a consultant or guidance or give you guidance. And when these boards have a meeting, you can have somebody from the port department go and assist them in making sure the meetings run right. The meetings only once a month. You know?
However, I just think that it's an imperative for us to decide what direction we want to go in as a country.
But we want to go in the direction that is legislated
during each calendar year with respect to these boards and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, the boards are what they are. You know, you have people who are actually illiterate, who can't read and write, who are part of boards and whatnot.
Man, when people can't read and write, that don't mean they don't have common sense. I don't want you to fool yourself.
Some of them don't exercise common sense. They may
have some cannot read and write, but they have more common sense than me and you, buddy. Because I know some of my family, they mightn't have been able to read and write. Boy, but you couldn't swing them with nothing. Boy. Right? They ain't no fool. They might be able to read and write, but they got common sense. And they can make up their mind if they can let a foreign entity come in here and put something there where they can make money from. They can make up their mind on things like that. So it ain't really about people being able to do certain things. You got some people in every area that are educated enough to set up shop, right?
The reality, Cap, you know, I'm not knocking anybody. The reality is, with the boards, with respect to what they ought to be doing, many of them, I'm not going to generalize and say that all of them, but many of them are not doing what they ought to be doing. And things like what you're talking about is things that so simple and so germane that one would think that, well, yeah, the board responsible for local government for that area, supposed to X, Y, Z, supposed to have gotten involved and whatnot. But we have a very loose, in my opinion, very loose manner in which we do business in terms of this country. There's no written and hard and fast system for doing a lot of things. There's no structure. Like, for example, okay, the first order of business in applying for a seabed lease would be to exercise your intent to do whatever, and then it goes to this particular entity, it goes to the Office of the Prime Minister. After leaving Office of the Prime Minister, then you should be able to, then it should go to XYZ or whatever, or be it Lands and Survey or the Best Commission or the Port Department or whatever the case may be. There's no system. I don't see nowhere.
No, there is a system, and once you make application, you will. No, but that's not true. I'm Captain Brain. Once you make application, just like you go to make application for anything in this country, they'll give you a list of what you need to do before you could get approval.
Of course, and when I was at the Port Department, things that came before the Port Authorities Board, and that where the Port Department had to go and conduct inspections and the joint docks committees and whatnot. I was involved in a lot of those.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about when they will give you the guidelines by which you need to get your approval. You just need to go ahead and get those entities to sign off.
In the Office of the Prime Minister called investments or trade and investments whatever the case may be.
That's mainly for foreign entities. That ain't for locals.
Well,
I talk about locals now. Let's stick with the locals applying for things.
But at the end of the day, there's got to be some documentation, some guidance to tell the foreign entity or even the local entity or whoever is acquiring or is desirous of doing some sort of business that may impact a community where the community have to be involved to say, well, okay, this is how you do it. From after this particular process, once approval is given in principle here, then the next step going to be this thing or that thing.
Yeah, but that's exactly what is in place. That's what I'm trying to tell you. These people were told what they had to do, you know. They just bypass everything and start putting more in place. You wasn't listening. You ain't know this thing happening.
Well, and you believe that?
I have no reason not to believe it.
Well, Cap, boy, look at me and you are at odds.
I am only saying to you there are provisions and they knew they had to do certain things.
Have you seen the size of those anchors and the size of those screws and the size of those moorings and whatnot? For you to make that kind of investment and to go ahead and bring in all that equipment, millions of dollars worth of mooring equipment, and you didn't even have an approval, then I am very, very dubious.
Yeah, that's dumbness on their part. They figure they could get away with it by just going and doing it without going through the proper. Some people try to tell the people to put their car on the road with their license, but why you think people don't try things?
Okay, well, if you
remember, try things. If you have an intent to bypass something, you could try.
Let's not.
You remember one time they had some Korean boats in Morgan's Bluff ready to start their fishing fleet, and then they had to go back to Korea.
Let's not forget now the results of the commission in 1984. Drexel Gomez would have headed that commission that says that the Bahamas is endemically corrupt from top to bottom. So let's not forget, because at the end of the day,
my brother, the whole world is corrupt. I don't want you to think. No country in this world.
The whole world.
Is not corrupt.
Bahamas, and so when we put out information. This entity didn't do this or didn't do the next thing. I'm very, very dubious to the fact that, how is it that they didn't do this? Were they informed that they
Well, if you read the reports in the newspaper, it says that they were informed. We can only go by the information we have. Now, I read the information in the newspaper, said that they were advised and informed that they had to go to various entities, and they didn't do it. So I can't say they wasn't advised, but the newspaper saying that.
I am sorry. I'm just a doubter. I'm a Peter. I'm just.
But there ain't nothing wrong with that. You could be a doubter because, of course, we all know that there is corrupt practices. I mean, that's the reason why they got so much passports out there with Bahamas on it, and people holding them and can't even speak English. We know that these stuff happen.
That's another big topic. And one would argue that well, wait a minute. If you know about all this kind of stuff, this isn't something that's clandestine. This isn't something that only a few people know about it. Seemingly everybody knows about these things, and how are we addressing them? And so I can't accuse somebody or whatever the case.
Yeah, but what we got to do is we got to stick with the provision, because if we didn't have provisions, there would not be a cease and desist order issued, right? That the only reason that could have been issued is because we have provisions in place for things to happen in a certain way, and it didn't.
Do you think that the cease and desist order was issued and is in place, and will eventually, once this matter gets out of the headlines, the entity or the entities involved would continue the whole business uninterrupted?
No, I don't think so. I think this matter, by exposure, this matter have to be eradicated, and by way of information and education and provisions. I think because you got to remember that this order came by way of the local board, the local government. So the local government will have to have a part to play. Now, if you tell me that the local government is going to be an influence or into allowing an outside entity to do this, then I could say, well, if that happened, yeah, but I don't imagine that'll happen.
Even though there's millions of dollars worth of...
I do not imagine that the local government will give the green light to that.
Listen, even though there's millions of dollars worth of mooring equipment that's currently in the Bahamas at the moment, that's associated with this particular project?
Yeah, I think so.
Millions of dollars.
There are millions of dollars that is be spent on a lot of feasibility stuff and go down the drain. So the people who bought those stuff have millions of dollars to chance with, because that's what they did. And if they lose it, they lose it. But what they could probably now try to do is that millions of dollars of equipment, try and sell that to some of the locals who would be able to get permission to install buoys, and at least they wouldn't lose all their money, eh?
Well, Cap, we're going to have to monitor this. We're going to continue to keep a spotlight on this whole issue, and hopefully at the end of the day, the Bahamians from the Exumas and throughout the archipelago will benefit from somebody else.
You call your boy Wade and Stanley Key.
Or someone else's misfortune.
Call your boy Wade, call our boy Wade and Stanley Key, and let him get in on this, man. Because Wade could get some seabed lease, and he could buy some of them moorings for half price of some of them people.
For sure.
So let's make sure Wade makes something of this.
Indeed. All right. Thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate the call, my friend. Continue to keep in touch, and feel free to call back, because we got a couple more topics to go. Hey, you know what we can talk about next? The breakwater at Nassau Harbor entrance. I know you know about that. You're a pilot like me, so you should know about that.
Indeed.
So before you go, and there ain't nobody else calling, so I ain't worried, but the line saying there ain't nobody can tell me, oh, you want that fellow on the line. No, I ain't listening. If you want to call, then I can tell him hold. But anyway, ain't nobody calling, so this means you would. Look at the depleted Nassau Harbor breakwater impact. Decades old dismantlement of protected breakwaters of harbor entrance remain neglected. Now, I know I was deputy port controller. We were trying to get that breakwater reinstated or reinstalled so that those surges wouldn't readily come through the breakwater before it ends. Mm-hmm. You know, the cruise ships have gotten a lot larger. They have more freeboard, and they go broadside to that area that is no longer protecting when the ship comes beyond the breakwater or comes within the breakwater to come to safe harbor. And those cruise ships could be very readily pushed into the western breakwater if they don't be careful. So how crucial do you think it is that the government get that finally sorted out properly?
Well, Cap, definitely this falls within the scope of something that I would, my remit, and something I'd be very interested in making sure that this is addressed. And to your point, it's very, very crucial. The whole issue of resolving the breakwater, and when fortunately or unfortunately, I was able to serve at the port department for a spell. I think about 7 years in total, and that was one of the major issues that confronted us while I was there. We located a couple companies who would have given quotations on repairing the breakwater, because not only the cruise ships are impacted by this whole issue of breakwater, every ship that goes to the container port is impacted. Even loading and offloading of these ships while alongside at the container port, that's impacted by the surge coming through the breakwater,
especially at high tide. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that's been on the drawing board for quite a while. It's just a matter of what the government determined to be their priority. If that is something that the government determined to be a priority, they will rectify it. Even when I was responsible at some time in the past for some sort of oversight of when the harbor was dredged to accommodate the Oasis class cruise ships. That's one of the mega cruise ships. That was a part of the project initially, but it never came to fruition because that, of course, is always a boil down to a money issue, and so yes, that's extremely important. It impacts shipping generally, which is so very, very important and crucial to our economic sustenance, and so it's just a matter of where it is placed on the government's agenda, and I think it should be a high priority issue.
Yeah, brother. Brain, you are absolutely correct, and I wondered too why when they did the expansion for the Oasis class ships, that breakwater wasn't really not only repaired but repaired beyond what it was initially.
Yeah, that was a big issue. That was a big part of that whole project. But it's just a matter of, like I say, it all boils down to dollars and cents.
But priorities. I mean,
government priorities.
You have any idea what the cost was for that aspect of the project?
I do not recall at the moment, but definitely it was something that was in fact considered. So where it fell out of the project or whatever the case may be, I can't recall exactly, but certainly it was a big part of the project itself, and it came up after, subsequent to that exercise as well. It came up again on several occasions, but it's just a matter of government's ability or government prioritization of what, how to spend the limited financial resources that the country has.
Yeah, because if we get hundreds of millions going on travel alone, I mean, you must could put, but I imagine that's going to cost $35-40 million.
Okay, if you think about this now. We talk on a daily basis. We speak on a daily basis on this show and in other forums about the fact that how easy it is to tap into the low-hanging fruits, such as putting a little, for example, dredging the turning basin in Morgan's Bluff, and allowing a few cruise ships to dock there on a weekly basis, and how transformative that could be for the local Andros economy. And to date, we still trying to convince our government that that is a viable and a sensible proposition to improve the lives of countless Bahamians who live in that area, and to also attract other Bahamians who do not live in the area to that area to carve out a new way of life or whatever. But has that been done? No. We still avoid in the wilderness crying out, because at the end of the day we have seen we have proven that it can work. But it's like these are the kind of things that we are forced to grapple, to deal with on a daily basis as we build our little Bahamas.
Yeah, so unfortunate, but we gotta keep the flag flying for maritime, man. These areas we have to keep pushing and saying things and repeating things and hopefully at some and then you wonder about the official opposition and other opposing parties to the government. They're not saying any of these things, and so if they end up in the chair, then we ain't gonna nothing to say. But you said some time ago you was gonna look at this, because they're saying nothing. It's like they accept it.
Yeah, but really and truly, we have the official opposition, and not only in this particular administration or whatever the case.
No, from time immemorial.
From time immemorial, I've never ever really exhausted their ability to address issues within the local environment, because we have a system that is really and truly does not lend itself to change. If you look at every other country within this jurisdiction around the world, really and truly, when the people rise up, things happen. Some things are resolved. But we have a system where we do more talking than action, and that is the issue. And so people could talk. Some of them don't. Some of them don't even talk. But
yeah.
But more. You have more of the same in most instances. So hey, we have a ways to go, and so hopefully we'll get there. But like I say, I encourage you, because I think you're doing a wonderful job. Let's continue to push for matters associated with maritime, and hopefully some things will improve in that particular area and in our lifetime.
And I appreciate you for keeping my foot to the fire and keeping us educated, especially with this Breakwater situation. I wasn't even aware of all of what you had to say, but I know it's something that we needed done from way back. And I hope that, in the existing, we don't know what will happen next year as far as the government or the administration and power is concerned. But I hope that either the existing administration or if they don't repeat, the incoming administration have some idea and some priority for this Breakwater to be in place.
But Cap, it goes to the heart of some of the things we would have spoken about. We talk about having persons who are duly qualified, appointed to boards and whatnot. That's a whole different paradigm shift in how we do business, and so we have that. This is only a drop in the bucket of what could happen if we have the right people in the right places and the right people appointed to the right boards and whatnot. And so that's where we got to really start. We got to start with putting the right people in places, right? Because at the end of the day, if we continue the same nonsense, and I really truly don't have no reservation in calling this nonsense or stupidness that we will have experienced, we've been experiencing over the many years, where only if you're a political affiliate you can get on a board appointment, and you're not really building no country. You're not, or if you intend to build a country, a nation, you're not building it on no firm foundation. So we got to start with putting the right people in the right places and appointment to the right boards, so that we can affect change in a meaningful way that all of us will be able to experience and appreciate in our lifetime. right? So that's my 5 cents on that.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely on point. And again, thank you so much for your contributions over the time, and even especially tonight with Maritime Matters and the issues we're dealing with. And continue to do well, my friend, and always listen and feel free to call in whenever you're ready.
Indeed. Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. And I just implore the average Bahamian, let's become more engaged in what is Bahamian and what affects us, because together we can cause some things to happen. At the end of the day, we don't need no stranger, no foreigners to come in here and tell us how to do it. We have the capacity to do it. Let's put our feet to the fire and let's get it done for us, for our grandchildren and generations yet unborn.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Cap.
Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's my good friend Captain Herbie Brain. He calls from time to time and blesses us with his knowledge. And as you have heard, the man is a very knowledgeable man, and I got all the respects for him. And I'd be so happy when he called in to expand on some of the things I know. But yeah, he's on point. Things we've been talking about, you listening first of all to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs every week, every Tuesday at 5:05 p.m. That's 17:05 in our military time or maritime time. And tonight we've been discussing the dilemma in the moorings in Exuma, the Exuma moorings dilemma. Those moorings that were started to go down without proper approval, and the people in the local area didn't have an opportunity to put down any mooring to see if they could make some funding or manage some moorings or seabed lease area. We talk about how some of the local, not local boats, but the boats that frequent the land and sea park, obviously mostly foreign owned, are saying that they would boycott if this anchorage deal was to proceed. And at the same time, the same amount of money they would be paying for this anchorage deal, they're now paying to BNT. So, in my opinion, I don't know if it makes a big difference, but somehow they feel like if it ain't BNT, they're going to boycott. Like I say, in my view, I think it should be the locals providing those moorings, and the BNT do what they do without getting involved in that commercial aspect. Or the BNT should also be made to get authorization from the local government in that area if they're going to be putting moorings down in that area. So we talk about the cruise lines and their private islands, how that those cruise lines are akin to mega resorts, according to our Prime Minister. And when they go to that island is like a mega resort with thousands of rooms on board those ships. And of course, the people go ashore and it's all in one pocket to the next pocket, but all those pockets belong to the cruise line, and how they doing their thing. So my thing is we need to get some of our family islands to have docks that could receive these cruise ships, so that when those hotels come ashore, those people could be pumping some money into the local communities as opposed to their private islands. Okay? We talk about the depletion of the breakwaters at the western end of Paradise Island and of course north of Arawak Key, where the cruise ships and the container ships and the mega yachts and everything got to come in to get safe haven in Nassau Harbor, and the breakwater to that area that's supposed to stave off the surge and the waves and stuff like that have been tumbled over for many decades now, and we need to really focus because the ships are not getting any smaller. In fact, they're getting much bigger and they're more difficult. The pilots, a good thing we got the best pilots, some of the best pilots in the world for Nassau Harbor, because if we didn't have them, maybe we'd have 1 or 2 ships been impacted and run aground already, because this breakwater is not situated or completed or fixed the way it should be. And those are the things we covered so far. We're going to move to our first break, which will be our only break because we're down to minutes. And when we return, there's one more topic we didn't talk about yet, the Ukraine war. The recent dilemma stemming from the Ukraine war. Is this the end? Is this war done with, or is this war going to go on? Please. Y'all who didn't want to talk about those maritime stuff, let's talk about this Ukraine war. Thank you very much.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Off the CD player, to the console, into the transmitter, out of the tower, through your speakers, to your ears. Nothing but hits.
Love 97.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in.
Gentlemen, we are back. I am Captain Glenn being your host. You are listening to Maritime Matters. Live on Love 97 FM. Our producer for the night, Mr. Craig Gibson, keeping us going. We just covered a lot of topics. We covered the situation with the mooring dilemma and the Exumas. We covered the boycott that the boating would have done if this deal proceeded with the moorings that were started to be installed. We talk about the private islands of the cruise lines, how they basically have a captive audience and they make money from the ship. And when they bring all those cabins, those people ashore, they continue to make money from ashore. But, you know, our Prime Minister says it's all like, you know, a mega resort. No, that's what it is. That's what it is. So we need to bring that mega resort to some of our family islands. So we're going to put some docks in the family islands, right, Mr. Prime Minister? And when we put those docks in those family islands, we'll have some of those mega resort ships coming ashore to bring us some of that tornado and things like that. We got the Breakwater in Nassau Harbor has been depleted now for decades. The ships are not getting any smaller. The weather's not getting any less vicious. So, you know, we need to do something about that breakwater before we have an incident. And, you know, sometimes you have incident and liability trashes out as to the country caused my ship to run aground because they didn't maintain their breakwaters. Not saying they didn't get any money, but we shouldn't even have to go that far. The bottom line is we have a breakwater, we have a lot of ships coming in. We're the largest visiting port in the world for cruise ships. Realize that? There's no other port in the world that receives more cruise ships than Nassau Harbor. Outside of the home porting ports. We're talking about visiting ports. We're number one in the world. But yet we got a breakwater for many decades tumble over and it looked like nothing being done. Well, I know nothing being done, but nothing had been done to have it reinstated. We need to do something with that. The war in Ukraine. How much time we got left? Less than 10 minutes. The war in Ukraine has a dilemma, right? Because we know that it's been going on now for just over 3 years. And President Donald Trump, on his way in within the first 3 months, decided he's going to have a meeting with President Zelensky and make a deal with him that, look, we've given you over $400 and plus billion dollars to keep fighting in this war. You still ain't really getting nowhere more than when we started. We don't have no issues with that, but what are we going to get for any money we give you from this point on? We got to get, you got some grains going on there, you got some precious metals going on there. We need to get some of that. And I'm not sure whether President Zelensky was willing to do that, but I know everything went sour, it was a big row, and President Trump said, man, look here, you ain't trying to behave. I need you to behave because we're giving you all this money, and you here it is, you come to the White House without, you don't even have on a suit. It's disrespectful. You're disrespecting us. You're disrespecting us by not listening to what we have to say. You still want to go on with your own agenda. And the meeting came to an abrupt halt. And of course, the rest of Europe, most of the European countries decided, boy, that was a bad meeting, but we got to make sure Russia don't just walk over these fellas and take over. So we could do whatever we could to keep this fight going. And that's where we are now. But, you know, is the U.S. resource discontent? Because the U.S. at the end of the day, according to recent information released in the news, was given 49% of the resources to keep the war going from a NATO perspective. And they say that in the whole of NATO, the U.S. have like 2/3 of the resources. So how could this war go on without the U.S.? So what the European countries are now saying to President Zelensky is, look, you ain't doing nothing wrong, but you need to kiss the ring. You need to go back to President Trump, getting his good books, because the only way this war could have a chance against Russia is if you got the resources from the U.S. continue. And that's where that war is. But for those of you who don't recall how this war started in the first place, this war started because, as you know, Ukraine is one of the major buffer states between Russia and the European Union countries. And when I say European Union countries, we're talking about those former Iron Curtain countries. We're talking about countries that really lie between the original Europe and Russia on the western side of Ukraine and Belarus. Right? Now, all of those countries, after the crumbling of the Iron Curtain, all of those countries joined the European Union after the Soviet Union was no longer. Russia was Russia. There was no longer a Soviet Union with all of those other countries along with Russia. And all of those countries joined the European Union and as a result became a part of NATO. Except Ukraine, Belarus. Is there any other one? Because even Latvia and Estonia and those, even those eventually joined. And I recall very clearly, while I was in university, when I was in university, I wasn't that smart. When I went to the IMO Academy, they call it International Maritime Academy, in Trieste, Italy. It was a group of about 30 international students along with myself. And there was a gentleman from Estonia, and he and I talked quite a bit. We had people from Estonia, people from Israel, people from all over the place, right? He and I talked, and he said on numerous occasions, and he was kind of bragging, we don't need a visa to go to the U.S. And I was like, but I live right next door to the U.S. and I need a visa. So how is it that you living in Estonia, up in the Baltics, and you could come to the U.S. without a visa? He said, yes. He said, once we decided to leave, when the Iron Curtain, we no longer part of the USSR, the U.S. held our hand and decided they could help us along. and it was Estonia, it was Latvia, and a couple of those countries that the U.S. just kind of hold on to, right? To say that you're not going to go back and form up with Russia. And the only two countries that did not join the European Union from that lot, those Iron Curtain countries, the USSR, were Belarus and Ukraine. Well, they may not be the only two, but they were certainly the two main ones. And they are the two that borders the western coast of Russia all the way along Europe until you get up to the area where Latvia and Estonia and those are. Eh? And they only got a little small portion up there, just on the opposite side of St. Petersburg. So what really happened was those two countries were still basically tied by the hips with Russia. And if any of them was to now join up with the European Union and become a part of NATO, that means that NATO, which includes the United States, can bring their weapons right along the coast of Russia. And this is the reason why we call Ukraine and Belarus border or buffer states, because the closest NATO and the European Union could get right now to Russia from the western side would be to the western border of Ukraine or the western border of Belarus, right? And those are large countries that take up an enormous amount of north-south land, so that Russia is buffered by them. So I don't know if you recall when Belarus, how much time we got left? Oh, that's it. But when Belarus, I think, wanted to change their leader, and Mr. Putin stepped in and reinstated the leader, Yugoshenko, whatever his name was, because Russia's not going to take the chance of Belarus getting a leader who wants to turn or join up. And so when President Zelensky decided he wanted to join the European Union and eventually join NATO, that's when Putin decided we got to take over this country because we need this to continue to be a buffer state. We're not going to allow them to. And that's what this whole war is all about, right? So things are changing now because of President Trump and all the rest of that. Watching the cookies crumble every day as we speak. Anyway, that was just a little throw in there. It's not a maritime issue as such, but it's a world issue. I just thought I'd mention it. Since nobody called, then I would assume that you guys are not particularly interested in that one, and that's why we leave that for last. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes Maritime Matters for tonight. And with that said, I want to say good night again to my Auntie May. I want to say thank you so much, my dear listeners, for continuing to listen to Maritime Matters. I want to thank my one very important caller, Captain Herbie Bray, for keeping us on even keel. And of course, I want to thank my sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection and Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport and 101 Pharmacy in Nassau. Finally, my producer, Mr. Craig Gibson, for keeping the vibe alive. I say to you, dear listener, Maritime Matters. Tick, 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 tick. Out.
I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change, everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I
Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
The best in hits and oldies. Love 97.